My name is Harold Pearson. I am alcoholic. Y'all didn't get scared when you saw me walk towards that piano and think I was going to sit there and play the piano, did you? Third grade of school, my mother decided that I should learn to play a piano, and after a year she decided she was wasting her money. But anyway, my name is Harold Pearson. I'm alcoholic, and I'm grateful to be here tonight. Grateful for the invitation. Daniel, you could have read the long form, and I could have sat out there a little bit longer. And then when Fritz got up here and was going to pass the basket, I thought that was a pretty neat deal too. I said, boy, this went fast tonight. But again, I am grateful to be here, and I never know what I'm going to say when I get behind this podium. I guess that's what we call it. But I do ask God to lead, guide, and direct me upon awakening in the morning, and had the prayer, and I do appreciate that. I appreciate y'all's custom of doing that here. That's a neat deal, and I appreciate that. And I hope I say something tonight to help somebody some way. I'd like to say congratulations to this group. A week early on your anniversary. What is it, 21 years? Yep. Yeah, that's great, and I hope to be here next Thursday night to help celebrate that. That's a neat deal. Group 21 years. That's and I remember when this group started, downstairs and meeting. Matter of fact, I looked out the window and saw the steps. We used to go down to that meeting place. So I do have a sobriety date. It's February 21st, 1981. I have a home group. It's the Old Time Structure Group. Meets at 7 o'clock on Wednesday night at Samaritan Chapel. Matter of fact, we was there last night. I think there was about 9, 10 of us. Anytime you're in that area and like to make a meeting, we certainly encourage you to come. A small group, but I don't say it's the best group. I hear a lot of people say, but I think all groups, if you're meeting for purpose to treat the disease of alcoholism, it's a good group. But anyway, I enjoy it, and because I went for quite a while without a home group. I had one for a long time, and then I just floated for a long time, and then we started that group, and I guess we've been in since 1999. So how many years? 18 years, 19 years, something. But anyway, I have a sponsor. He has a sponsor, and do the deal. And I sponsor a few people. I'm not a very good sponsor. I just mess people up, really. I don't know what it is. And I do pretty good if somebody's been sober about 20 years and their sponsor dies, or they get mad at their sponsor and fire them or something, and they already on good ground. I can sort of carry them along now. I got one guy. I think he'll be this July. Will be celebrating 35 years, I believe it is. So we started off together. And we still together. Matter of fact, Sunday morning we talked a little while. He always shares the good things along with the bad things. I have great appreciation. Brad, I appreciate that introduction. I appreciate the friendship that we've been able to cultivate over the years. And, he's talking about the colony and being in treatment and so forth. What I remember about Brad being in treatment was this. Is his father would drive down from Pennsylvania to visit him to see and to check on him. And that was really, I had the opportunity to meet his father and to see that a man had that, and he wasn't, I don't want to say he was an old man. He'd been here a long time, though. And he was willing to do that, to check on his son, and I really had appreciation for him, and spent a little time talking with him, and that was a pretty neat deal too. So I'm grateful for that. Yeah, I am still at the colony. I had the opportunity to go there February 21st, 1981, and what I went there for, my brother took me out there on a Saturday morning to leave me, and what he says, he told me to stay, and says it's the only thing I've ever done in my life that he's asked me to do. He said, you're still there, so you stayed. Now, my thinking was, that, hey, I couldn't go home, and he'd already taken me to his house on several different occasions, detoxed me and so forth, and asked me about going to get help. He didn't say go to treatment or anything. He said you want me to take you somewhere to get some help. And, when I was trying to get him to do what I wanted him to do, yeah, whatever. But then when it comes time to go, I say, I believe I got it this time. And I say, I believe I can make it. I said, if you just let me stay here for a few days, a few weeks, whatever, get on my feet, I believe I'll be okay. But that Saturday, I knew that, I didn't know the gig was up. I wanted to go. I wanted to get away from him. I just come back from a 2-week drunk down in Florida. And that's a story in itself. And most of it was blackout stuff. I was a blackout drinker. Gosh knows, I thank God for blackouts. Yeah, I couldn't hardly deal with the guilt and the shame and everything and stuff I could remember. And if I had to deal with all that stuff that was done in blackout, especially some of the people told me, of course I think they might have been lying. But anyway, I don't even know if I'd be standing here tonight. So thank God for blackouts. But anyway, I wanted to lay up for a few days, and I wanted to rest. I was wore out, and what I wanted to do was try to figure out how I was going to get out of the mess I was in, because I was in a mess. And I'd been drinking for about 8 months. 2 years and 8 months prior to that, starting of that 8 months of drinking, I'd been introduced to the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, and went 2 years, pretty well 2 years and 8 months, and didn't drink any alcohol or beer or do any other stuff. But I did drink a right good bit of NyQuil there for about 2 weeks, and I knew why I was drinking that NyQuil, and 50 proof booze, and I needed it, and people was working for me. They said, "Man, you need to quit that. You need to They didn't know how much I was drinking. But anyway, after those 2 years and 8 months, I had to drink, and I drank for about 8 months. My life was a mess, and here I had a wife and three small kids that weren't even school age yet, and I didn't know how to be a father. I didn't know how to be a husband. I didn't, and I really hadn't done much. I had not done much for that family, for the certainly the last 8 months, and then for probably a year and a half, 2 years prior to that, because just because you're not drinking doesn't mean you're in recovery. It doesn't mean you got sobriety. My God, it was miserable. It was miserable white knuckling and needing a drink, not taking a drink. Now, boy, that's bad. But I wasn't drinking, and I'd quit forever and so forth. But I did finally drink, and I stayed, like I say, for about 8 months. So, and not only was it, I wasn't welcome to go home. My brother took me out there, and I had bought a country store in about a year and a half prior to that, and that was a mess. That was stupid to ever do. I needed it like I need a jet airplane sitting out here to take off with tonight. But I bought it, and because I was going to make up for lost time. This was, again, during that 2 years and 8 months that I wasn't drinking, and I was going to make up for lost time all those Mondays, that I didn't have no money, And I got paid on Friday, got paid pretty good and all that, and, every Friday I swear it's going to be different this weekend. And come Monday morning, it was the same way. I didn't have cigarette money, I didn't have anything. And here I had found a way to not drink and all, and all I did was go to meetings and didn't drink. I didn't work those steps. I didn't get sponsored or anything else. But anyway, I bought that country store. I had a masonry business, and I had 2 big checkbooks. And neither one of those accounts really had any money on them. But those checks, you could float them back and forth and stuff such as this. So I was staying afloat, and I was riding around looking pretty good externally, but boy, on the inside it was bad. And finally, what happened is I did drink, and I had to. I did. Again, if I hadn't drank when I drank, I probably wouldn't be standing here tonight. I'd have probably went off the deep end somehow or another, really, because it had reached that point that my life is so unbearable without alcohol that I had to have alcohol. And I remember the bootleggers that night when I woke them up and told them what I wanted, and they said, man, when they realized, they thought I was getting it from my uncle, but when they realized I was getting it from me, they said, man, please don't start back drinking. And because they knew I wasn't a successful drinker. Now, when bootleggers tell you not to drink, it's pretty bad. I had another one, and Gosh, no, that man weighed about 350 pounds, and he'd sit on a picnic table out in front of his place, and his wife would run the, she did the bootlegging part of it. Part of it was legit. It was in South Carolina. It was a little general store and everything, but she sort of handled the bootlegging part of it. But he sat outside on that picnic table, and my uncle used to say it looked like a 55-gallon barrel with a pumpkin sitting on top of it. But he told me one time, he said, look here, he said, let me tell you something. He said, I found out a long time ago liquor was to sell, not to drink. And he said, you need to find that out. He said, you don't need to be drinking it. But he'd tell me to go in there and tell his wife to, to give me something to drink and so forth. So when bootleggers tell you don't need to drink, you probably don't need to drink. But I had to drink, and like I say, they said, please don't start back. And I said, I've got to, and I did. And I drank for about 8 months after that, and that's when I wound up at the colony. And I'm going to tell you what happened. But I was going to lay up and rest for a few days and figure out how I was going to get out of the mess I was in. I had, I had a few ideas in my head. And if I couldn't figure it out, I was going to figure out who it was I was going to call and make that call. Because somebody had told me, a man that had a right good bit of money, that he sort of liked me, and that and I'd talked to somebody one time, you reckon he would float me along. Now, I don't know how much I was going to borrow from him. I don't know what I would have done if I'd have borrowed it from him. I'd have done like everything else. He'd have been in the hole too. But anyway, I had that sort of plan going too, but I needed a few days to rest, and that's what happened. Is I laid there for 4 or 5 days. I was whipped, I was beat, I was powerless. My life was totally unmanageable. And if they'd have said, hey, we want you to sit in this corner, 6 hours a day, I'd have sat in that corner 6 hours because I couldn't do anything else. And the next day they said, get over in this corner, I'd have got over in that corner. And that's sort of the way it was. But what happened was, and I know I'm probably going backwards with this thing, and I'm not going to end it quite yet. But anyway, what happened on a Wednesday night? At that time, it was an 8-week program. It wasn't a 4-week program. It was an 8-week program, and it was a little bit different. You could have probably got up and went and spoke then. No, you wouldn't have to went outside. You wouldn't have to. You spoke right there in class. I mean, yeah. But anyway, the deal was on Wednesday night they had what they call a song service there, and I'd been there about 2 weeks, and 2 weeks and a few days, and the power had returned. I was no longer powerless, but I still hadn't figured out how I was going to get out of the mess I was in, or either I hadn't figured out who was going to get me out either. But this family visited, and it was some people I'd went to school with. Matter of fact, it was the people that I had bought it was the man I'd bought the store from. It was his daughter and her husband, who were classmates of mine at school, in this little school I went to and everything. And they came to visit me. And when I had that store, I'd be up there at night, and their son, I guess he was about 9, 10 years old. And he would hang around up there, and I'd pick at him and stuff such as this. And this was before I started back drinking, and even during that 8 months, he enjoyed coming up there and hanging out and so forth. And I always had pretty good rapport with kids. But anyway, he was with them that night, and he sat next to me. And he acted like he was just as happy to be sitting there next to me. He was just, and I'm thinking, boy, if you only knew. If you only knew, man, I'm nothing. I'm nothing. My life is ruined. And here you are happy. And I mean, I don't know what I'm going to tell you, Grandpa, about that store down there. I wish your parents hadn't even brought you up here. I wish they hadn't even came. I didn't feel deserving of visitors or anything else, and here they were up there. And afterwards, you go into those dining hall across the hallway there, and we'd have cake and ice cream and stuff such as this, and social hour, I guess what you would call it. And I wasn't too social. I mean, really, but anyway, he was just as happy as he could be, and to be there with me. And I'm thinking, man, you just don't know. And what happened, that was on a Wednesday night, and that Thursday morning, Mac, who was the director there, chaplain at that time, and he told me right before lunch, he said, come back in the classroom, I want to tell you a few things. And we sat in chairs looking at each other, and I looked him eye to eye. And he said, I'm going to tell you a few things about yourself. And it wasn't that bad. It wasn't a big confrontational thing or anything. But, I didn't want to hear anything then. I didn't want to hear compliments. I didn't want to hear, I'd have rather somebody just told me, you just sorry, no good, you really need to go. You probably ain't going to make it. I'd rather heard that probably than some of the positive things that he did say. But he did tell me this. He said, that what I want you to do, this is on a Thursday, wrestle with it this weekend, and come Monday, you knock on my door, and we'll talk about it. And my thinking was, oh boy, I won't be here. I probably won't be here Monday. But I was there Monday. And I remember after lunch, I'm thinking, want me to knock on that door, what am I going to do when I knock on that door? And so what happened was I knocked on the door. And what I did, I'm pretty sure I sat down in a rocker. And what I did, I sat there and opened the doors up here a little bit and shared with another human being stuff about myself that I'd never shared with anyone else. And I mean, it wasn't fifth step stuff. It was just bad. It was bad. I mean, it was the way I viewed myself, the way I felt about myself, about the things I hadn't done, the things I should have done, the things that I had done, and all the other things such as that. But I shared it with another human being, and that wasn't no spiritual awakening. That wasn't nothing. That was just that, for about 30 minutes. So I sat there and it just opened up to another human being, and I'd never been able to do that I know of. No telling what I'd done in blackouts. That I've had people tell me, man, you know what you said. No, I don't even want to know either. But I never shared it at that level. Now, what happened as a result of that is that I became willing. And I didn't know it at the time, but I became willing to start working the steps the way we did it there at that time. But when it came to putting that 4th step down on paper, I was very willing to do that. And I did a very thorough job at doing it. And when I sat down to do the 5th step, it was the same way. Now, I guess I need to start my life. I went through 2 sets of parents by the time I was 20 years old. I didn't have much success with parents. My biological mother died when I was 2 and a half. And she had she knew she was dying. And she had made arrangements for my biological father, who was alcoholic, made arrangements for his sister to adopt me because she knew that my biological father was not capable of raising me. And he was my brother that I talked about that took me out to the colony. He stayed with our father. He's 7 years older than I am, and I talked to him today. But anyway, he stayed with my father and was raised with him. Now, he's not an alcoholic. He doesn't drink. He has drank. He's a bigger fool than I was when he drank. But he didn't, he very seldom drank. And like I say, he never had a problem with it. And I got a sister older than that, biological sister. I guarantee you she's never had a cigarette. Drank, probably never said hell, unless it was something to do with church. But anyway, I was adopted, and I had a name change. My name went from Peel to Pearson, and sort of ironically today, I appreciate my grandson Cubby being here with me tonight. But he and I went down to the Peel Cemetery and mowed it and weeded it and cleaned it up and everything. Got a Pearson reunion this weekend, and I tell people, what I was doing today is making amends. I'm still making amends to the Pearsons and also to the Peels. I maintained that cemetery. There weren't Pearsons buried there, and there are Peels. But anyway, I was adopted, and I was raised up by parents who were old enough to have been my grandparents. And I thought it was old fogies. They wasn't hip and everything else. Today, I'm deeply grateful for them. Those people sacrificed to give me the best they could, and I'll always be grateful for my mother. She talked about alcoholics, and I don't know if she called them alcoholics. Yeah, she did call them alcoholics, but she called them. She talked about what good people they were. But she said when they drank, they'd always undo the good things that they did. And so at an early age, I got a pretty good image of an alcoholic as not being that bad, you know. Also, when she wanted work done at the house, she would wait to, painting especially, she would wait for a certain guy to get sober. And she said, you know, that's who I want to do my painting. She said, I'm not going to put up with his cussing there. But anyway, she had always a very positive attitude. She was a very giving lady. She was a nurse, and she didn't have no training to be a nurse. I remember when the doctor hired her. You know, he just stopped by the roadside one day and said, "You ready to start nursing?" And this is back in the day when you could do that, and so forth. She started nursing, but I saw her help a lot of people, give to a lot of people in many different ways, and so forth. And not only she was preparing me for this program, Alcoholics Anonymous, that alcoholics were good people, but also that you need to learn to give and care for others, and so forth. And you know, this is back in the day of autoclave, you know, this sterilizers and syringes and things like that. Once she hadn't killed somebody, which because she'd go 20, 30 miles to give somebody shots that couldn't get into the office and stuff like that, and so forth. Very giving person. And I was raised up in that environment. Like I say, I resented it, though, because I thought, you know, man, I'd been cheated, that my life should have been different. I should be going to another school. I should be living somewhere else. And I was irritable, restless, and discontented at a very early age. I mean, I couldn't stay still. I was always on the go. But I was happy. I mean, you know, people see me from the outside. They thought I was pretty well adjusted and all this good stuff. But on the inside, it wasn't that way. And, you know, our textbook talks about if they ever trying to arrange lights, the ballet, the scenery, and the rest of the players in the wrong way. I started at a very early age doing that. You know, I found out very early on in school, teacher's pet, a little small school I went to anyway, you know, teacher's pet, that was a good deal. Not only was I a teacher's pet, but I was a school pet. I mean, really, I had them all snowed. I mean, the principal, the cafeteria workers and everything, I could go there and eat when I wanted to and, you know, get stuff out the back and things. And the principal, the different principals we had now, especially the last one, he's the one that seen that I was able to graduate from my school. He didn't think I could do anything wrong and so forth. So, you know, this is sort of the way it was. I was, like I say, I was not only teacher's pet, but I was a school pet. But I wanted all my classmates to like me and everything. So I was the daredevil. I was the, you know, Herold would do it. And sure, I tried. I'd do it. You know, I was class cut up, class clown, and all this. You know, again, trying to arrange the lights, the ballet, the scenery, get everybody to like me and get things going my way and so forth. And it was somewhere in those early teens that I first drank, and the first time I drank enough to get drunk, I got drunk. I had a blackout. I got sick. You know, I didn't remember getting sick because I'm in a blackout and everything. But I know the next thing, what I remember about this, the next day at school, I got a lot of attention. People talking about, boy, he was crazy. It was on a Sunday afternoon, and the other boys that were with us and everything that was observing all this behavior, you know, took the report to school. But I liked what went on, and from then on, any and every time I drank, or got a chance to drink, I usually got drunk. And most of the time, if I drank enough, I had a blackout. And this is that's the way it pretty well ended too, the blackout. But then, like I say, I didn't drink every day. I didn't drink every weekend. I couldn't. But if I could have, I would have. And because it's a small town, and the mother, by this time, my adopted father, he had died. So now I've got two parents, you know, adopted parent and a biological parent. They were dead by the time I'm 13. And then my biological father died when I was 18. And my adopted mother died when I was 20. So, you know, got rid of enablers. But, you know, we'll adopt more enablers. We'll find more enablers right quick. And I was good at that too, like I say. And not only, you know, I was talking about being a teacher's pet, school pet, but you know what, I couldn't find out, and I just had a realization not too long, I was God's pet too, because, you know, I was still here. And he took care of me and, you know, provided for me. He did for me what I couldn't do for myself. He saw that I got to this program eventually, and even since I've been in this program, God has done for me what I couldn't do for myself many times, and for that I'm deeply grateful. But I mean, they used to love to play basketball, by after my ninth grade year, a little small school, 1A, I guess what it was, and so forth. But I had spent a lot of time at home out shooting basketball. I spent a lot of time alone. I was the only child raised up there at home, so I spent a lot of time shooting basketball and so forth. But I can near about show you the place on that school ground today after the basketball season that year. Mr. Miller, who was the principal. And the reason I'm telling you this is I wasn't that good, but in my mind I was, and even in their mind undoubtedly I was. But was the fact that that's sort of the way my life was. I'm good out the gate, but you tell me I've done something good, there's no use in me doing it anymore. And Mr. Miller, as we walked across from the lunchroom going towards the gymnasium that day, he told me, he said, Coach Harris, Jimmy Harris, he was the coach, and he said, Coach Harris said, if you keep on improving in the next 3 years, as much as you've improved this year, there's a good possibility you could get a small school scholarship. Well, and I don't remember whoop all of a sudden, but what happened was, I don't even remember practicing anymore. I mean, I practiced naturally because I played basketball the next 3 years, but the last two I could care less because I was drinking. And most times the games, drinking was more important than playing basketball or anything else. But there was no need to improve because in my mind, he just well told me, you're good enough to, play college basketball. There ain't no use in practicing anymore. And it was episode after episode after episode like that in my life that I would hear something and there was no need to go any further with it. But my mother decided that I needed to go in the Air Force. It was Vietnam hot and heavy, so I went in the Air Force. And that was, I went in late enlistment, and I really was signed up before I completed high school. And once I graduated, 3 weeks later, I was off to Texas. And there was nothing fabulous about my career in the Air Force. I spent a year over in Thailand, and what I loved about it was I didn't have to worry about anybody seeing me back home, and my behavior. But pretty well everybody knew because I was right, and I try to write home, and I tell some people about what was going on and stuff such as this. But what happened was after 2 years and 8 months in the Air Force, I got a hardship discharge. This mother of mine was dying of cancer. And in November of '68, I got out on a hardship discharge to come home to be of help to her. And it didn't, she died the following March, in March of '69. It was just a drunken mess. I went to work on a farm where I'd been raised up, a large farming operation, and I always loved working in the dirt and stuff such as this. And I had opportunity to go to work for Southern Bell then, because that's what I'd done in the service. But I didn't bother those people because I knew I couldn't do it. I knew they wouldn't put up with me drinking in their trucks and stuff such as this, so I didn't bother them. And what happened though after my mother's death, that I saw the handwriting on the wall, I was going to get fired. And it's bad when you can't drink liquor and farm. And these people this doctor that I was working for, he was part owner of the farm. And he had been like a adopted father to me after my adopted father had died when I was 13. He sort of took over. Good man, and good news is I was able to make amends to him before he died, and was able to help several people that he referred to the colony. But anyway, I quit before I got fired from the farm, and went to masonry business. And first job was down in Orangeburg, South Carolina, and what happened was the first day on the job, and we stayed in a Cotton Bowl motel. I always remember what I remember about the Cotton Bowl. Right next to it was on Highway 301 South, and right next door to it was a beer joint. Beer joint like I liked, and it was anyway. But he handed me a credit card and asked me to fill his truck up with gas, and he handed me a $10 bill, and he said, "Do you drink?" I said, "Yeah, I drink a little bit." And he said, stop by the liquor store and get a quart of, I forget what it was. This was in South Carolina, and I said, certainly. But immediately, here goes, right in my brain, and immediately I said, I got it made. Man that owns the company, a part owner, it was Simmons Ware, and this was Simmons. Boy, he was a character. Both of them were. But anyway, I knew I had it made because if I'm working with somebody that drank and that I could do what I wanted to. And I was young enough at that time to pretty well, how we do is, lay out for most of the night and everything. Get in time enough to change clothes next morning, go to work, and you swear out, 3 o'clock, I ain't going to do it no more. But by 4 o'clock, you get to feel a little bit better. Here you go, just repeated sort of things. But what was happening, after 2 or 3 years of that, we were always working out of town, and sometimes I'd miss my ride on Sunday afternoon or Monday mornings. And so I just stay home because I didn't have a driver's license. I had a driver's license. I didn't have a vehicle to drive, and I wouldn't, I'd just take a week off. And that's when I'd lay up at those bootleggers that asked me not to start back. And those people actually saved my life on several occasions, I'm sure. And I think that's what they were doing. But I think one thing, they were trying to get me healthy enough to go back to work too, so I could pay my tab off too. I'm sure they were taking care of themselves, but they were good people, and so forth. And one of the times, man, I always had bad nerves too. I'd shake. I tell you what, and it's just bad. And so I was trying to be respectful enough not to drink on the job and so forth, because I take a drink or two, that'd be it anyway. I'm leaving. So, but I remember, and it was hot. It might have been about like it was today. I don't know. We was down in Spartanburg, South Carolina, and at lunch that day they have old food trucks come out on the job and all, and I couldn't eat nothing, but I went out there and I got me some tomato juice, and I put some pepper in that tomato juice, and I drank me. I might have got 2 big cans of tomato juice and drank that stuff, and I got back up on that scaffold. And we was up about, I don't know, about the height of the ceiling, maybe a little bit higher. And it was hot and it was beating down, and that tomato juice wasn't going to stay. And I dropped down on my knees on walk boards there and just started throwing up. And all it was that red. Boy, by that time, everybody on that scaffold left. They said, oh, he's hemorrhaging to death. And they left me up there, and so forth. But that was sort of the gist of my construction is, and it just got progressively worse. And then I wound up down in Georgia, and that's the side of hey, I've never been married, and hadn't been in any long-standing relationships. I mean, because nobody was going to put up with me. I didn't, because I was married to alcohol. That's what I wanted, and so forth. But I said maybe that's what needs to happen. And anyway, what happened was that I probably drank more because I could get drunk at home and I got more there to drink, and just get drunk again, But what did one of the things again, trying to arrange the lights to ballet, and there was two convenience stores. I guess they call them convenience stores back then. Might not even call them convenience stores, but they were close by and they sold beer anyway. And one of them was not too nice a store. And man, when I was shaking and bad off and dirty and everything, I'd go to that store. But when I was fixing to get on one, I was cleaned up a little bit, I'd go to the other store and try to act like Mr. Pearson, and so forth. So it talks about us being an actor and so forth. But anyway, what happened was wound up had my wife had her first child. She's here with us tonight, and I'm grateful. But that didn't change anything either. That didn't change anything. I thought that would be the deal. You keep looking for the deal that's gonna, because I saw other people do this. I seen guys that used to drink worse than I did, and I swear, some of them something that happened in church. I mean, and sometimes it happened in jail. I know one of them that's preaching now, and and boy, me and him we used to get up on bars and march and stuff like that. We be playing army and all, just crazy stuff and everything. And he wound up in jail, and he got religion and became a preacher, a good guy, And it happened for him. And some people would get married, and that was it. You know, they didn't drink no more. You didn't see them around the places anymore. And I just knew it was going to happen to me, but it didn't. At one point in my life, I said, you know, I'm going to be a drunk. You know, I'm a drunk. That's what's been dealt to me, and I was going to be a good drunk. And after a while, I didn't want to be a drunk. I didn't accept the fact that I was a drunk. I wanted to quit. I didn't want to be a drunk, but I couldn't. And so what happened in October 1977, I called on Sunday evening to Herb Crisco. He died last August. And I called him, and I knew, and my wife at that time, she was, you know, said, you got to do something. And I'm thinking, if you'll hush, I'll do something. And I made that call. And he and Liston Milligan came and 12-stepped me on a Sunday night. And they told me about how our life had changed because of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous and so forth. And they told me that if you want the same thing we got, said, if you stay straight, this was on a Sunday night, till Tuesday, meet us at Highway 1 and 74, that Rockingham service station, said, we'll take you to a meeting. And they brought me up to the Wilder building that Tuesday night, and that's where I attended my first AA meeting. And I'm sure it's the same thing, I'm sure it's a discussion meeting. All I remember, somebody gave me a cup of coffee, and I don't know why they did it. I set it on the floor because, you know, like I say, I'm shaking. I don't need no coffee, you know, I don't need it. And I left it on the floor. That's all I remember about that meeting. The next night I picked up a white chip at the Presbyterian Church. They had a Wednesday night meeting, a Sunday night meeting. That group's long abandoned. But I picked up a white chip, and they gave me a big book, a 24-hour day book. And I said, you know, I said, I'm going to do this thing. And for the next 12, 13 months, I went to meetings, and I didn't drink. And that's all I did. I didn't get a sponsor. I didn't work any steps. I believed what the book said. I identified. I never did think I wasn't. I mean, you know, I knew I was alcoholic. And the other thing that I love was one day at a time. I said, boy, that's something. One day at a time. That's all I got to go is one day without drinking. And they used to talk about camels could go a day without drinking water, and that anybody out there could go a day without drinking liquor. And I thought, man, I can do that. But I think in my sick mind, I was thinking that, hey, 3 weeks down the line, I'm going to get good and drunk if I want to too. But I love that one day at a time. And I was even thinking about that today. You know that if you believe in this 24-hour a day deal, you don't even have to worry what day of the week it is. You don't even have to worry about, you know, what numbers on that calendar and everything. Because all we got is just 24 hours. You know, this is it. This is what we've got. And it doesn't matter. I think it is 21st. It's first day of summer. Oh, but anyway, I think I got here early. But anyway, don't even have to worry about it being 21st. You know, this 24 hours, and that's been a great blessing to me. And so forth. So I was really impressed with that, and like I say, you know, and then I graduated. You know, like I say, I already had a masonry business, and then I bought that store, and I didn't have time for meetings. I wasn't gonna never drink again anyway. And so I quit going. And like I say, it got worse. It got worse, and at some point along there, I decided that alcohol really wasn't a problem. The problem was I got a mental problem. Then I found out, you know, when I finally got educated about the disease of alcoholism, it is a mental problem. You get a mental health diagnosis. And I remember one time my uncle said, boy, don't go to that mental health center. You'll have that the rest of your life. like I didn't have something else already bad enough, you know. But anyway, what happened was that I lost where I was at there. But I got so miserable. It was terrible. And that's when finally I had to drink again. And I stayed drunk for three days. I was building an underground house not too far from where I work at now. And I remember it was in June. It's probably about this time of year. It was hot, and my nephew was driving me to the job, and I laid there and I was drinking 100 proof Smirnoff, and I just lay up in the truck. My dog, he was laying up in the truck today. And I was probably like the dog, his mouth wide open. They said my mouth wide open, flies flying around and everything else. And every once in a while they say I'd get out, and the guy that's county commissioner in Richmond County now, a great man, and so forth. And of course he wasn't a commissioner back then, but he had a steel company, and he showed up on the job and he said I just cussed him out. And I didn't remember. I made amends to him, and we're tight today, and so forth. But he said he didn't know what was going on. But I guess I needed to tell him that whatever he was doing wasn't right. But anyway, after 3 days of that, I said, darn, them people in Alcoholics Anonymous knows what they're talking about. This thing is progressive. That, prior to that, I used to go drink and work every day. I might not work as good as or perform as good as I should, but I could show up. And I showed up, but I couldn't work. I just laid there for 3 days. I said, well, I'm going to quit. I didn't think about going back to meetings or anything. And then the next day I was slipping around here or there, and the next 8 months I stayed drunk. And I wound up, like I say, at the colony and going to figure out how to get out of the mess. And what happened was I did do that 4th step, and it was very thorough, and I wrote it out on a legal pad like a biography, and the guy I did my 5th step with. We sat down in 2 or 3 different sessions, and we pulled those character defects out and put in the margin, on that legal pad. And it was a real legal pad. It was a lawyer's legal pad. It was big and long and all that. And what would keep showing up time after time after time, and it might not be the exact words, but selfishness and self-centeredness that the book talks about as root of our problems. And see, I had always thought I was a giving person. I always had that, again, wanting to be liked, wanted to be, and thank God I was that way, because I hadn't. I somebody would have killed me, really, because if people have told me, said, man, I thought that guy was going to kill you last night, or so and so hadn't stepped in and helped you out, because again, I don't remember it, but they told me, and I believe what they were telling me. But anyway, I always thought I was, a pretty good guy, and like I say, it was good that I was, but I was very selfish, and that had started off long before alcohol ever went in my body. Even that little old adopted kid, I wasn't grateful. I wasn't grateful for what these people were doing for me or anything else, and I always wanted what I couldn't have, and very selfish, self-centered, and so forth. And that just kept showing up in that inventory and so forth, and all the other character defects. And what happened was I was able to talk about them all and share the events of my life and the exact nature of what motivated me to do those things that I was ashamed of and hated myself for and so forth. And I continued to work those the rest of the steps, and I continued to try to practice those principles in my daily living today. But I'm going to share this, and I'm going to sit down. But Brad was talking about it, and what Brad didn't say that I flunked. I retired. But as a matter of fact, 5 years ago this month, at the end of this month, I retired. And I didn't leave, but I retired. And other night somebody told me, said, boy, you flunked retirement, because I started back full time about a year ago. But anyway, when I was offered the opportunity to stay there, and it was an 8-week program, and it was probably about 6.5 weeks I'd been there and so forth. And they talked to me about what I was going to do. Well, I'd already met with the IRS, and they wasn't interested. They wasn't real crazy about me getting back in the masonry business until I got some taxes, stuff. And it took 11 years to get that stuff straightened out. But they wasn't real interested in me be back, back in business and so forth. And I had pride, I didn't want to go work for somebody that I might have worked for me and stuff such as this. And I wasn't real sure what I was going to do. And this country store, I'd already sold it. While I was in treatment with the transaction, that was taking care of that. But when he met with me to offer me the job and all, they said, it'd be minimum wage. And I don't know what minimum wage was back then. It was, maybe $4 or $4.50. I'm not even sure. And I didn't say anything, but I met with my counselor, Margaret Johnson, and talking with her, and she knew she knew I'd already been to the job, and she was in on some of the decision making about it and all. But she said, and I said, Margaret, I've never worked for minimum wage. Now, I'd stamp peach baskets when I was 6 years old at 20 cents an hour. And by the time I was 8 years old, I went to the tobacco fields and getting 35 cents an hour. So I was moving on up. And if you've been in the military back in the 60s, you worked for minimum wage, below minimum wage. But anyway, I told her, I said, I've never worked for minimum wage. I don't know if I can make it. I said, I got a wife, 3 kids and stuff. And she just sat there and looked at me and she said, what have you done for them the last year? And I said, well, nothing. She said, minimum wage would probably be pretty good. And I had to accept that, I had to accept that. And that's the way it started. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the people that have kept direction simple for me, because I have been greatly blessed. I have been so, and one of the things about hanging around this program and not graduating like I did before and so forth. And sometimes I think maybe I don't need to go anymore. But what I love about it is seeing lives put back together. I pay more attention to it than I used to. I don't know. It seemed like early on I was trying to put my own life back together and caught up in my own selfish stuff. But today I'm more open and seeing families put together and seeing marriages take place and seeing children that come into this world because of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And seeing them kids sometimes graduate from college and start their own careers and everything. Boy, what a blessing. How great I have been blessed in my life. And I was just thinking on the way up here, there's one family, there's 3 generations I had the opportunity to work with. The older one's deceased now, and I don't know how the other 2 are doing, but 3 generations that I've been able to be have some kind of impact on their lives for periods of time anyway. So I'm greatly blessed because of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm glad that God chose me to be a pet, and I'm grateful I can be his pet and try to do his will and do the things that he would have me to do. Thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight, and Fritz, we can pass the basket now. Thanks.